Welcome back. Sean here, Mountains Garage. Still grinding away on the 6-liter Turbo LS project. I dug out the intake manifold, as you can probably see, in the throttle body. I patched together a steam vent kit with a little story to go with that. I did something I don't normally do, and I added up everything I've got bolted on right there, or is soon to be bolted on it. Just out of curiosity, it's always more than you think. And I've been digging through my scrap because I need to make a few more things for it. And let's go over it. There's a pretty good chance the Trailblazer SS intake manifold is not going to win a beauty contest. But I guess it does perform beautifully. See what I did there? It was $137 brand new to General Motors in the General Motors casket that it comes in. It doesn't come with intake manifold gaskets, but I had a broken intake just like it in the shed. One of these is broken. Had the green intake gaskets. I put them in my ultrasonic cleaner for about 20 minutes, and they look brand new. I inspected them. I think they'll be fine. New intake manifold gaskets are $55. So, if I could avoid buying them, that's a win. The 3-bar map, I'm only going to go to 15 pounds, so I don't need a 3-bar, but I had bought it with another project and it happens to snap right in here. I'll make a bracket. The throttle cable bracket will go here. I'll also make a bracket to hold this down so it doesn't come flying out. I'm probably going to run this vacuum port to an aluminum block I'm going to make to put everything vacuum or boost related will be a manifold, so you don't need multiple connections on the intake. This one I'll have to plug or use, I'm not sure yet. I read somewhere you could drill it. I'm going to mess with the broken manifold, see if I can drill and tap this, which may be better. Because I want it to hold up to boost. I guess they do, but just looking ahead, making sure I don't have any trouble with it. If it does give any trouble, it will be replaced. But a lot of people run them. It should be okay. I had a couple intake manifold bolts laying around, and I pulled a few more out of some truck intakes that I had. So that should be fine. And the power brake port comes plugged. So I'll leave that the way it is, because I'm not going to have power brakes. I'm working on a set of injectors from a buddy of mine. I have a set of aftermarket fuel rails. I'll have to make brackets depending on the height of the injectors. So that should all come together okay. The throttle body is an unbranded eBay 92 millimeter. They tell me some companies just brand the name on it, call it their own. It seems really nice. I'm pretty picky. I can't find anything wrong with it. I searched high and low. I knew I had the green O-ring that went underneath it. I did find it. So that's good. It came with the bolts. I just needed to find the O-ring. I'll have to pirate a throttle position sensor and an idle air control motor. But I believe the stock stuff bolts in. Haven't checked that yet. That should be fine. I'm probably going to maybe pull this out and drill and tap it because I won't need this port for anything. I'm still developing the crankcase ventilation plan in my head, but as it stands right now, this is the driver's side cover. I'm going to weld the Dash 12 bung here. This has a nice long baffle inside I spent a lot of time cleaning, so I know all the junk is out of it. And that'll work on this side. I'm going to build a catch can and mount it somewhere in the car with Dash 12 lines going to it. On the passenger side, there's not a lot of good options. This one is not baffled, so I wouldn't want to weld a fitting there. This is baffled, but there's not enough room to get a Dash 12 fitting on there, and anywhere else you'd have to come up with a baffle, so I'm probably going to take another driver's side cover and mount it over here. And then to add oil, you just disconnect the Dash 12 line and dump it in. That way you have two baffled holes leading to the catch can. The other morning I did do some parts harvesting out in the storage box, and I got a coolant temp sensor that I shined up nicely. Brass cleans up nicely. Same story on the cam sensor. I pulled this out of the 4.8 that I stole the rocker arms from. And I've already dug up a Dash 4 fitting. This is the adapter for the oil pressure to M16 to 1/8 inch pipe, and then this is 1/8 inch pipe to Dash 4 AN line. That'll be good. So the steam vent. I have all kinds of stock ones, you know, the metal tube or block off plates here. And you got the tube on the front. So I could go 4-corner or I could go just the front. I'm okay with just the front. I bought a cheap steam kit on eBay. It was 30 bucks. And these are actually nice quality. They have a nice quality O-ring. The Allen bolt's fine. No complaints on the back ones. The front was supposed to have one with an 1/8 inch hole, 1/8 inch pipe tap. And the other one was supposed to have a receiver for the 1/8 inch for the crossover line. And it's supposed to be double stack with another 1/8 inch port headed back toward wherever you're going to vent it. Well, that's not the way it came. And contacting the seller got me nowhere. For $30, if I have to pay to send it back, I'm going to lose. So I decided to make something out of it. This is the crossover line they gave me. It is so stiff, it's like a piece of cement. It's a total piece of junk. It'll be a wall hanger conversation. I literally can't bend it. What kind of flexible line is it when you can't bend? So I decided just to use copper nickel 3/16 line and flare it like brake line. I'm not in love with it, but this is just, the whole engine is not going to be very utilitarian, if you will. I did have the correct ferrules and AN style lines. It still would have been the same copper nickel, but it would have been, you know, AN fittings here, but it really wouldn't have, you know, changed the thing. It's not a beauty contest. It's more for function, and I don't want any clamped connections on the coolant. I'm going to have AN fittings. Still got to weld the one on here. It's going to be all solid. No hose clamps, no rubber for the coolant. This is over on the Model A, but this is what I typically do. Use this factory crossover piece and then just run a tube and drill and tap the water pump. The factory connection, they run it up to the radiator or a higher point, but I find this works just fine. I crack it when I fill it if you have a thermostat in it. In this case, I'm not going to run a thermostat, so it'll fill the block no problem. The reason you have a steam kit is because the watt is coming in low, unlike a traditional Chevy where it came in through the intake manifold. So the heads are higher than where the watt is coming in. You got to get rid of the air. So that's what it does. They call it a steam vent kit, but it's really just an air vent kit. I didn't think about it until afterwards, but I should have moved this fitting over more. And they make an 1/8 inch bleeder, like the LT1 Caprices had them, to fill the radiator. I could have just opened the bleeder. That would have been pretty slick, but I'll remember that for next time, or feel free to steal my idea. I'm sure it's been done anyway. I have the up and forward headers mounted currently, and I included them on my price tally. If you remember when I mocked it up in the Nova, I couldn't fit all the bolts in the head because somewhere in the flange it was drastically wrong, and on this side I had to elongate this hole toward the back about a half a hole and then the rest lined up. Same story on this side, so clearly the error is in their machine. I had to elongate this one, and then I was able to slide it back where it belongs, and all the other bolts fit. I only have 3 on each side, but while I'm right here, a buddy of mine just came and borrowed a tool and gave me this coolant temp sensor adapter, so it fits your long bulb that comes with your mechanical gauge. That's a bonus for today on a Sunday. Thank you. So other than just making sure that they fit the head, I'm still messing around with ideas about the accessory drive with the up and forward headers or with the big single turbo. It's going to be one or the other. My SFI fluid damper is Camaro spacing away from the block. You measure from this flat part of the block to the center of the ribbed drive belt. And this is the middle of the road. The Corvette's the shortest, truck's the longest. If this was truck spacing, the truck alternator power steering pump combo fits in here. But I don't have a truck spacing balancer. I dragged a truck power steering alternator mount inside to play with and to see if I could cut 3/4 of an inch off it, move it closer to the block that much. I'd have to shorten that bracket too, but this doesn't look impossible. So I'll probably clean it up and see if I can do something with it, because I have it. I have the pump would work for what I'm doing. I got plenty of alternators to mount on there. That's one option. Left over from the 63 Nova project I was doing with the big single turbo, this hangs off the driver's side quite a ways. It would interfere where the header is now. But this is Camaro spacing. And they do make, if I bought the Camaro pump and the correct alternator brackets from ICT Billet, I'd end up spending $300 or $400, and I could either run the power steering here and the alternator down low, but I think it would hit the Nova clip. I could clearance for it. Or they make a bracket to put the power steering here and the alternator over here. That might be the way to go. But I don't have to do anything right now. But eventually I need to decide whether it's going to be twins or a big single. And I'm pretty much talking myself into the twins. But I'm not sure why I can't decide. They're both good options. With the twins, I have to buy 2 wastegates still. With the big single, I have 1 already. My intercool is for a twin, but I could weld the hole. I don't know. This is all things that bounce around in my head. And I'll just noodle on it some more. I'm sorry there's a little bit of glare off the light, but here's my list. My criteria was everything that's currently bolted on or is going to be bolted on, like the flywheel's not bolted on, but it will be soon. See, this comes out, makes a handy pointer. It may be in every video now. It may be famous. So, going, you can read it for yourself, but I shopped everything up pretty hard. I put no value on the engine or the short block and the heads because I had them. Everything else that I bought, even though I started buying stuff in 2015 or 16 or before, if it's new, I put a value on it. If it's used, I didn't. So, most of the stuff I bought recently, and surprisingly, I spent $2,000, but that's almost ready to run. I still need injectors and obviously some kind of engine management system, but it's not bad, but still higher than in my head. I probably thought I spent $1,500, so I guess that's about right. If you were going to tell your wife, you'd probably tell her you spent $1,500. Fortunately, my wife doesn't care, so. How does it go? You should always, it's easier to beg forgiveness than ask permission. Something like that. So, things I need to build for this project. On my design board in my head, I'm going to take some of this flat stock, and I, for some reason, bought a giant bag of 100 of these M10 1.5 bolts, Allen head. I'm going to take and make 4 plates that'll bolt on probably here. They'll probably be oval shaped with the goal of blocking in the freeze plug so it can't spit out. If you accidentally pressurize the coolant system with boost, on an LS engine it instantly pushes these out. The block itself has all threaded, they call them expansion plugs, but it just has a couple threaded bungs, which are nice, so there's nothing to pop out of the block on an LS, but it will. There's 4 of these. Each head has 2, front and back. It will blow these out. I've seen it done. So, if you're running a boosted LS, you need to cover these up, because otherwise you're going to get a surprise amount of liquid under your tires, and like I mentioned, I'm trying to avoid that. When you start adding boost and you've only got 10 head bolts per cylinder, bad things can happen. Even if you have more head bolts per cylinder, you need to prevent water from getting under the tires. So I'm going to make 4 little brackets. You can buy them for probably $40 for 4, but I got all this material and bolts. I'll just make them myself. So the ones you buy, some of them go all the way around. Some are just around with a tab. I'm probably going to go with that method. Even if it, slowed the leak down, I probably, will silicone them and bolt them right on. So it's going to be a slow leak if it's a leak at all. This hunk of aluminum is going to be my vacuum/boost manifold. I'm going to drill down through this way and tap it quarter pipe on each end. And then I'll intersect it this way with 1/8 inch pipe ports, probably 4. So I can connect, I know, for instance, Holley makes a map sensor that screws in 1/8 inch pipe if you don't want to run the one in the intake. The wastegate, needs access to the boost reference. And if it's all in one spot, it's just going to be easier. And I have lots of stock, so I will build myself a manifold. And if you ever look under my bench, this is all projects in the making. I dig for stuff all the time. And I was looking at this. I want to make a catch can for the crankcase vent. And if I mount it under the hood, which is of course forward of the tires, I want it to be big enough I probably wouldn't fill it until I could safely get stopped anyway, if I had an event that pushed a lot of material out of the ventilation system. So I want it to be a pretty big canister. The ones you buy are, 150 milliliters or something, maybe a half a liter at most of the ones I was looking at. I want something bigger. I need lots of practice welding aluminum, so if I can ever get this nasty aluminum clean here, actually this bottom piece, I was figuring if I got enough material here to fill in the ends, it's going to be a pretty big one, so that'll work. I got some bungs coming. So that'll be lots more practice welding aluminum, but I've been watching some YouTube videos and I'm ready. I'm always excited to start welding aluminum to hopefully, get better at it. And then about 15 minutes in, you're ready to never do it again. But I'm hoping. I'm going to keep trying. I will not be defeated. I'm going to keep trying until I won't say I master it, but at least proficient at it. Sometimes you take off and things go really well. If it shows, a good chance it's going to come out bad. I got to get over that. So I'm not perfect. I learn every day. I did some trading the other day. I love bartering. And I got this new flex plate shield, which is going to package a lot nicer in the Nova than that big metal one I'm trying to fit. And I'm going to make a fixture to make small block Chevy headers. So that's a good trade. I dragged in another piece of metal. I'll have to fire up the old chip chucker mill and make another fixture. I think this time I'm going to try to build a shield to protect myself from all the flying debris and the rest of the shop. All right, I got some work to do, obviously, on the 6-liter project for the 72 Nova. I'll be picking away on that. My plan is to start back on the 71 Nova and rip the rear suspension out of it and get that fixed up, and I'll show you who, what, when, where, and why when we get to that. I think I've mentioned it a couple times, but mistakes I made, well, choices I made, I need to redo. But it's been a few weeks or almost a month since I've worked on it, so it'll be a pleasant change of scenery. And that's what I'll probably do next. Like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. I'm going to call it a day. I hope you have a great weekend. Talk to you soon.